Hello over there. Hey, hi, hello. It is Catherine here on this gorgeous Wednesday afternoon. We are back here, and I am here with my lovely co-pilot, my hunter, Maui Jones.
Was good.
You look great today. I love the hat. I love the jacket. You look so good.
Thank you. Just threw it on.
You did? Aw, just for me.
Mm-hmm.
Aw, shucks. For those of you watching at home, I watched this later than Maui and left him a voice memo after it was over. Absolutely sputtering. Could not deal with all the stuff we are about to get through. I have more than a page's worth of notes. There is a lot to go around. Shall we dive in right now?
Let's just hop right in.
Let's just do this. This episode 14, I can't believe we are almost at a close, is called War-Mantle, which, if you all recall from one of our previous episodes, we discussed that War-Mantle is the Imperial program to phase out the clones and conscript stormtroopers from across the galaxy. And the name War-Mantle first appeared in Rogue One. I am still very proud of that deep cut. I'm still gonna pat myself on the back for that one. But anyhow, we begin right off the bat from the very first scene with a chase scene. There is a clone being an older clone, I would say. You can kind of tell he's got the little salt and pepper going on. He's got, some lines in his face, but he's on the run through the jungle. And as he goes, he puts some sort of blinking device onto a fallen tree trunk, but does him absolutely no good. He gets stunned by a trooper chasing him and dragged away. That is the first thing that we see, and it's like, ooh, it's about to get serious up in here. I don't know about you, Maui. I don't know. What did you think about this beginning? It was like so many questions right off the bat.
Yeah, I like the opening. I mean, you could tell that this was setting up something major. So that was basically what was exciting to me. It's like, oh, sweet. Finally, we're, doing something, to propel the plot forward. Because after the last episode, I was like, oh, come on, like, no more filler, please. And you could tell right away between the name of the episode and this opening sequence, you're like, okay, this is the real.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and just the whole tone, really, it really did signal that something different was on its way because, it's dark, there's no lines, it's a chase sequence. Before we've gotten these, like, big public squares with speeches and, crowds. This was, like, very claustrophobic, very, just different than anything we got before. So from the word go, you're like, oh, it's going to get juicy early. I see how this is going to go. So then we cut right away to the Marauder. And I thought this little detail was really cute. Hunter was just like aimlessly twirling his knife, whatever. And Omega
watched that scene before we started.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
It's so Omega is as usual working on Gonki, and she sees Hunter twirling his knife and like takes her little like screwdriver thing or whatever and like tries to mimic what he's doing. I'm like, oh baby.
Yeah.
I just love these little things. I don't know. It's good writing. I love that. Or good directing.
Yeah, I absolutely love that scene. I was like, okay, like that's how you do characterization, like,
1000%.
without saying anything, like, oh, I love that. I love that sequence so much.
Yeah. It was just a little thing.
This entire scene I love. The way it sets it up, the comedic beats with Wrecker, like everything about this scene I absolutely adore.
Yeah, and I think, we'll get there, but throughout the whole episode, there's little things, little nuggets dropped about each character that are consistent with their characterization thus far. And again, it just kind of keeps building these moments to display who these characters are. But we'll get there in a second. All of a sudden, they get a transmission from Rex, who has received a distress signal from a clone, an old friend, and needs extraction. Gosh, I wonder who that could possibly be. Tech looks it up and says that the reg is CC, not CT, sorry, CC5576. And he is on a planet called Darrow in the Outer Rim, which has no known settlements. I had to pause for a second and be like, a tiny gripe, tiny hand of the writer moment that's like, aren't all these new planets, aren't they all in the Outer Rim? I feel like all the new planets are like, oh yeah, they're like way out there. They're, you know, in the outer rim. And I'm like, with all these new planets in the outer rim, like, do we have any planets close to the center, close to Coruscant? Is anybody out there?
Yeah. You're always on the outer rim. It seems like in Star Wars. Like if you're a rebel, like everything happens on the outer rim.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get it. It's like, okay, like this is the lawless part of the galaxy. This is where all the action happens. Where like, the former republic part of it is probably kind of boring. But like, come on, guys, they can't all these new planets. They can't all be in the outer rim. Like, let's have something happen in the middle, shall we? But anyhow, that was just a small little thing. I just kind of like had to shake my head a little bit and be like, y'all, we're always there. But anyway, immediately after receiving this, Rex cuts it off right away. He's busy. He can't discuss this whole thing. It's clear that something's going on over there. My first question actually is, what drew Rex away so quickly? I know when we encountered Rex before, you and I kind of pondered, what's he up to? Like he invited, Hunter and the rest of the batch to join him in whatever it is that he's doing, and we still don't really know what that is, do we?
My guess is that he's liberating clones.
Interesting.
That would be my assumption with like the tone of the show. Like my guess is maybe he's doing something to help like liberate Regs.
Interesting. Yeah. The thing that keeps me from thinking that might be true is we still, and again, I was gonna get to this later, but I guess we're gonna jump into it now. We still don't really have clarification as to what went on with the inhibitor chips, because some people seem to still have it activated and some don't. So if he's liberating clones, then they have to be open to being rescued.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So something's going on. I hope we find out what it is.
Doing a Wrecker reference.
Oh, sorry. It totally passed by me.
It's okay.
You didn't do the voice. That was going to be the giveaway.
I can't do that accent.
No, that's okay.
I can't. I wish I could. I can't.
That's okay. Yeah. I don't know how D. Bradley Baker does all these voices without absolutely wrecking his vocal cord, especially with like Wrecker's like gruffness. That's all like down here.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so immediately upon this discussion, a bunch of points come up. Hunter doesn't like it because they're going in blind with no intel. Echo counters, says that Rex wouldn't ask if it wasn't important, and
Wrecker says that they both have good points.
Yes, and of course, Echo, was this is one of those nuggets that I was talking about earlier. Echo was once part of Rex's force. He's served under him, so of course he trusts him because he's had to trust him with his life, many years ago. Tech points out that they are in the middle of a job for Sid, and if they stop, they're going to lose their commission, and if they don't get commission, they don't eat.
That's also a good point.
It's also a good point. And then Omega, in classic Omega fashion, says Rex's friend is in trouble. You got to go help the dude. He's in trouble.
And she also has a good point.
She also has a good point. And this is the kind of thing that I really like, where everyone's kind of right. You kind of see where everyone's coming from, because clones got to eat.
Yeah. And this is right. Who are they? Are they rogues? Are they heroes? Are they soldiers? Are they just trying to survive? Who are you? What do you stand for?
Right. Absolutely.
Which I love. Like I love that we're getting that question, right? Like Hunter's not just the guy that's just like, yeah, we have to go save the people. He has motivations and concerns and priorities, and you see him trying to stick to those things.
Yeah.
But his team doesn't necessarily have the same ideas as he does, right?
Totally.
And so like this scene beautifully illustrates that, right? When like Echo's like, no, dude, we like this guy's in the same situation I was once in. We have to save him. We have to do for him what you did for me. Totally. Whereas Wrecker is like down for whatever, and Tech is like, no, we have a job that we need to complete. And so like seeing like all of these different points of view intersecting in the way that Hunter kind of takes in the consensus of the group and goes with that, right? Like
Right.
I appreciate that. It usually
Yeah.
seems that the thing that weighs the most to him is kind of what Omega says, which I kind of love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that.
Yeah, it's interesting to see who is governed by head and who is governed by heart.
Mm-hmm.
Because Hunter is always motivated by what's best for his crew. He wants to keep people safe. He feels responsible. Tech is motivated also by his head because of statistics and data and, facts. And Echo, at least in this instance, is motivated by, hey, it's Rex. I trust Rex with my life. I have done so for a long, long time. Where he goes, I go. And then, of course, Omega is very, very much motivated by heart to say, hey, if we have the capabilities to help this guy, then we should help him. We would want the same if we were in his position.
Yep.
So Hart seems to win out here, and they go over to Darrow. But not before we cut away to the planet of Camino for the first time in quite a few episodes. I think the last time we were there, it was with the... was it the Bounty Hunter episode?
The last episode we saw Fennec.
With Fennec and Cad Bane.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That first shot of Camino, I don't know the last time you watched the whole thing, but that first shot of Camino with the former Republic ships kind of hovering in the air, and of course it's raining as usual. That shot looks so good. If you had told me that was like in a deleted scene in Attack of the Clones, I would believe you. Like you could tell me that was in a live action movie.
Is consistently top notch.
It really is.
Like from what Clone Wars started as to where they're at now with the same animation style, but it's like the elevated form of it.
Yeah,
is great. It's just
insane.
Awesome.
It's so funny because I have a friend. Okay, so all my friends who are like casual Star Wars fans, I've been badgering a lot of them to go watch Clone Wars because it's my duty. So I'm like, come on, it's some of the best at its best. It's some of the best Star Wars storytelling there is. So one of my really good high school friends, shout out to you, Kenna, has finally started Clone Wars, and she's on like season 1. And I was over at her house the other day, and we like watched one of the episodes, and it was so weird and jarring to see that old ass season 1 low budget animation. Yeah. When I'm so used to these like gorgeous moving paintings, really at times, that the Bad Batch and Clone Wars season 7 and so forth have been providing.
Why do you always leave Rebels out?
Because I don't like Rebels as much, and the animation isn't as good.
So good. It's so good.
It's okay.
And the animation on Rebels is great.
No, it's not. I will not go that far. The way they do hair, especially, really bothers me. What? All the hair looks like tentacles on top of their head. It really pisses me off.
I love Rebels.
It's okay. I won't say I don't hate Rebels.
The animation in the final season is phenomenal.
It's okay. It's fine. It's passable.
You're just biased against.
I am not biased.
R2.
We will never see eye to eye on this, and that's okay.
It's okay. That's okay. But yeah, that's a great scene with the Kaminoans as well. Like I love seeing the subtle like political maneuvering, all of like the behind the scenes talks with like Lamasu and Nalase, is great. Also hearing about how like all their contracts are dried up, like here, like you were getting like throughout the season, like hearing like their fall from grace, which is really cool to see. And say, oh, we can go other places, and then them realizing like we've empowered the Empire too much. Like we kind of screwed ourselves over. Like that's so interesting.
Yeah, but my next question would be though, I mean, yes, they have empowered the Empire too much. They have kind of, messed up their own prospects here. But Lama Su takes the mental leap of saying that he's afraid of that they're going to be terminated now that their contracts have been terminated. And I don't know if we've gotten, at least from the Kaminoans' perspective, I don't know if we've gotten really evidence that the Empire is as cold-hearted and systematic as we know them to be. So I don't really know where Lama Su is coming from there. What do you think?
I think that they're the ones that programmed Order 66 to exterminate the Jedi into these clones, right? Like,
fair enough.
I think they know that this Empire ain't nothing to f with, right? So
Totally.
I think he sees like contracts are drying up, like they're moving into conscripted, volunteers and whatnot. The use for them is gone, but they also have the ability to create armies, right? They have the ability to create thousands of soldiers, millions of soldiers. That is a potential threat to the Empire if the Empire is not doing the thing. Rebel Alliance, maybe the Rebel Alliance starts using cloning technology to build up forces to fight back against the Emperor. It really makes sense to me, and it makes sense that Lama Su would be savvy enough to put those pieces together. So yeah, so like I actually rather appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a good point.
He's not waiting; that he's being proactive.
Yeah,
that to me is really cool.
And he kind of has to be, because it seems like their entire society is structured around providing these clones. And if they don't have that, then they don't have a lot to fall back on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if even if they do leave and they survive, like they got to go somewhere else anyway to really rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I thought that was interesting. An interesting tidbit. Another interesting tidbit that happened right before that scene with Lama Su and Nala Se. You see Admiral Rampart and Crosshair. And Crosshair gives the ominous line, the operation is ahead of schedule. Like he's almost like doing this kind of thing. Which, of course, without even saying what it is, I think we all immediately know that is Project War-Mantle. Mm-hmm. Like he doesn't even have to say it. Yeah. And Rampart says that he wants every clone mobilized. So they're really pushing
every viable.
Sure. Yeah, you're right.
That's an interesting choice of words there.
It is.
Because that we see the little kid clones walking with Nala Se.
Right. But my point is that they are really pushing for these clones to go to the four corners of the galaxy, maybe to the most dangerous parts, so they can have some turnover, if you will, and make way for the conscripted soldiers to take their place. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really shows. I mean, again, to the audience, that is a really systematic effort by the Empire.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So the Bad Batch land on what's the place's name again? Darrow. Sorry. The Bad Batch lands on Darrow, and right off the bat they find the Regs beacon. But I love this little moment with Hunter. Hunter tracks the prints and various clues that have been left behind to figure out where the clone was dragged. That really gave me a Aragorn and Two Towers. A hobbit lay here and the other with him. I was like, oh my gosh!
It gave me less cool vibes of Prince Humperdinck and Princess Bride. Whenever there's a tracking sequence, I think of that. Like,
really? That's so funny.
I think of him smelling the odorless iocane powder and going, "It's iocane powder. I bet my life on it." Like,
that's what I so think funny. I love that. That's like we have like our two minds go to completely different places. That's so great. So Hunter sends. I think he realizes that something is severely up. Yes, thank you, Eric. Yes, Team Tolkien all the way. Hunter realizes immediately that something is viciously up and sends Wrecker and Omega back to the ship. The rest of them, so at this point, Hunter, Tech, and Hunter and Tekko, I should say, follow the clues and find a military base inside a mountain that was previously unknown and secret up until this point. So they look through the binoculars and they see, I thought this was so cool, they see troopers, regardless of whether they're clones or not, in new armor. And I was like, oh, we are starting the transition to like actual stormtroopers, like regardless of whether they're clones or not, like the stormtrooper armor. Like you can see this like middle ground between the clone armor and the stormtroopers. And like, yes, ever since 2002, when Attack of the Clones came out, we kind of saw like that evolution starting to take place. But now we're like, it's happening at a quick clip.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people posting very excitedly about this because it's the like original character design, like the Ralph McQuarrie like designs for the stormtroopers.
Yeah. Oh,
Which is
really?
yeah, which is
Oh,
really really
sick. I
cool.
didn't know that.
Yeah. Also, want to
Hmm.
take a second to honor like the amazing color palette going on your eyelids here.
Thank you.
It's pretty dope. So I just want to give
Thank
props
you.
to
Thank
that.
you.
Like there's like purples and like
Yeah,
yeah,
we got some gold here, some pink,
gold.
some
Yeah,
blue and purple. Yep.
yeah, that's super
It's
cool.
thank you. That is the not a sponsor, but that is the Alyssa Edwards palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills.
I love it. I love it. Keep going. I'm listening. I need to get tissue because my allergies are going haywire.
Oh, I totally relate. Okay, so where were we? Oh yeah, the proto stormtroopers. So because this military base is literally built into a mountain, and it's like I mean, for those of you who haven't seen the episode, it is literally like a hole carved into solid rock, and the base is built down into the hole. There's literally one way up, well, one way out, and that's up. So Tech correctly deduces that this base is impenetrable. So again, led by his responsibility to his crew, Hunter wants out. Like he's like, deuces, we are not doing this. And Echo disagrees, again, led by his heart. And Techo counters with, they don't know if this reg is there. And if this reg is there, they don't know if he's alive. So this extraction mission is probably not the smartest thing that they could come with right now. And there's no reinforcements either. They have absolutely, I mean, other than Wrecker and Omega, who might be of some help, but if there's only one exit, not really. They have nobody to bail them out at this point. And then this is where Echo, says that the point that you mentioned before, that had they followed that logic on Skako Minor, Echo would still be there.
Exactly, but I also want to make sure to say that I really love when they get on planet and he's like, "All right, Wrecker, you take Omega, go back to the ship." And when she tries to push back, he like actually like draw some boundaries. Like, coming here was up for debate. This is not. You're going back.
That's a great line.
And then that's it. And I was just like, thank you for being somewhat responsible because she is still a child that you're putting in pretty dangerous life or death situations.
Yeah.
So like I'm happy to see that. Like if I can avoid putting her in direct combat, I will. Made me happy.
Yeah, and it's almost like part of an ongoing season-long conversation between Hunter and Omega. He teaches her things and sets these hard boundaries and teaches her to use her steampunk laser thing and all this stuff. And in return, she teaches him some things. Like that whole, as much as we didn't really care for last week's episode, she does kind of teach him something. We're like, well, if Ruby likes him, then he must not be all that bad. All these like kind of sweet, innocent moments that she can illuminate for him after a life of hard combat. Then they make each other better.
Yeah, I like how she like helps connect him to his humanity. He's been used to being a tool that is just used by other people and not necessarily having like wants and desires of his own, thoughts of his own, morality of his own. And she is a gateway to him thinking more intentionally about his relationships with other people. And I think that's super interesting. Whereas he like empowers her to like stand up and take a stand for stuff. It's very interesting. I really, really dig it.
Yeah, me too.
We have a comment here from Kevin Laper.
What's
the
up?
whole decision is based on their familial responsibility. Shackle Minor, it didn't matter if they failed because they were all that was at stake. Now it's Omega. Totally true.
Completely true.
I love that.
I do too.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah, and going back to your point where this life is all Hunter has really ever known. All of a sudden now he has kind of authority over his own decisions. I think that's maybe why he didn't immediately go with Rex, because he doesn't really know what's out there, and he's discovering that for the first time. But still, despite all of that, his first priority is keeping his family safe. Really. Yeah. No, this whole dynamic is really well fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
But they do find a way in through the elevator lift system. Classic move. Once they get inside, Echo taps into their systems, but the encryption is new. Again, keeping with this whole theme of transferring from Galactic Republic to Galactic Empire.
Yes, but I will also point out that that's the last time they updated their security systems, because Mandalorian, with Bill Burr's character still having security codes,
accurate,
like years after he's been in the Empire. I'm like,
that's so really? True.
They update once every 25 years, y'all.
The cybersecurity of the Empire is severely lacking.
Severely lacking.
That's so funny. I love that. But this is actually, I love this little bit here. When he does eventually get, crack the code, he says that the muster shows 50 clones and 1,000 TK troopers, which immediately I was like, TK. Mm-hmm. I know what that means. But they eventually do find where the reg is being held, and lo and behold, it's Gregor.
Yes.
And what Gregor, okay, call me a bad fan, but because I don't rewatch Rebels so much, I was like, Gregor, that name sounds so familiar. Why do I know who that is? And so, of course, I looked on Wikipedia, because I have to do that at least 3 times per episode, whatever it is that I'm like, oh, wait, what is that again?
This is a testament to just how vast, like, the universe is. Like, so every character has a backstory and has appeared somewhere else.
You know what? Thank you. Thank you.
No, absolutely. I have trouble keeping it all straight too. I often have to look up and like, who is this one again? I know that I know this person, but
right, the name sounds so familiar.
Hundreds of hours of content to like remember who that person is.
Right, and he is in Clone Wars for 1 episode, but he's far more prevalent in Rebels. So, if for those of you who don't remember, Gregor is, I think he appears in season 5 of Clone Wars, and he is the clone who is working in the void, quote unquote, in the restaurant, and he has amnesia, doesn't remember who he is. And then the astromech droids and the little, reptilian commander guy or amphibian commander guy slowly figure out, who he is and kind of get him out of the situation. And he sacrifices himself when some bombs blow up, but he does not die apparently, because he is with Rex as old veteran gentleman in Rebels when Ezra and company find him there.
Eric says, the hallways in the base looked right out of the original trilogy. They did a good job showing the transition to the Empire we know.
Okay, so I want...
Ooh, either you froze or I froze.
I'm frozen. Oh, dear. Ooh, we're back.
Okay, sweet. One of us froze, but you were back now. So say that again.
Okay. I was gonna say, I do want to talk about those design choices that really brought the point home that this is the Empire now. Like, we are like in OT territory-ish now. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, to Eric, yes, it was the set design choices, which I will agree. Although we kind of did see that. Those hints of it with the Republic, some of those cruisers kind of look like Star Destroyers. There's a little bit of those hints and stuff there. What really sold it for me was the sound design. Like, when Echo is cracking that code that we just discussed earlier to find where Gregor was being held. I mean, literally the sound effects that were there are the exact same sound effects when R2 is looking for Princess Leia in A New Hope. Like in that in that system. And then the blaster fire when they're trying to fight their way out later in the episode is the same blaster fire as the stormtroopers in the original trilogy. And then the alarm blare when they trip the alarm again later and they know that there's intruders is that same like that alarm, the one that that causes every Star Wars fan to have a minor heart attack because it's so stressful. like that Rogue One trailer where like that's pretty much all the audio is that alarm, and I'm just like, oh my god, it's about to go down.
I feel like Star Wars might have like the best sound library in all of like fandom of genre, science fiction, fantasy. Like their sound library is just ridiculous. Ben Burtt sound supervision is absolutely insane. Like the way he comes up with sounds, like
Right.
they feel so real, so lived in, so guttural. I freaking love it.
Yeah,
Mike
and
also said, Kat, you are his Wikipedia.
I love you, Mike. Thank you. Yeah, and it's incredible when you think about it, how many of those sounds through the years have become iconic. Like you hear that blaster fire, you hear that alarm, you hear that Vader breath, whatever it is, you know immediately where you are. It could be a dark screen and you would hear that whatever it is, and you're like, oh, this is a Star Wars piece of media.
Yeah.
I don't know of any other franchise that has that kind of recognition from such a quick touchdown. I don't know if that exists anywhere else.
No, I don't think it does. Like, not that I can think of.
Yeah, not off the top of my head, at
On the
least.
head. I mean, Star Trek, I guess maybe the
Maybe.
ambient sound of like just being on a starship is very unique in Star Trek.
Totally, but I don't know if there's so many of them.
Right, like phaser sounds. Like I would say, like, yeah, I think Star Wars has like a fair amount of that, but nothing is just kind of like, or maybe like the sound of like being transported.
Right.
Right, like those things, like those are some pretty big ones, but nothing like the vast like amount of sounds that just you think of like whenever you hear Star Wars, that you can hear it and it's like that's from Star Wars.
Absolutely, 100%. I want to get back into the plot though by asking this question. I know we touched really quickly on the inhibitor chips before, but does the reintroduction of Gregor, seemingly unbothered by his inhibitor chip, give us any more clues as to what the hell went down? Does it maybe have something to do with older clones and it not bothering them at all? Like the whole like first generation thing that Omega referred to 6 or 7 episodes back.
But Rex had to take his chip out, and he's a Gen 1 clone, right?
But maybe it tripped in all the clones, but it wears away in the older clones because they've had it for longer.
Maybe. I feel like it's something that they're really going to need to address, because I don't know what makes mindless zombie clones and what makes independent thought drones. I can't see what the distinction is at this point, because we have regs that are still in the service of the Empire defecting now.
Right.
And I don't understand like, is it because their chips aren't dialed up so they can still resist and it's like mileage will vary?
Right.
I need them to explain that to me.
Yeah, I'm going to need some answers. I would like to point out, though, that Hauser in a couple episodes ago is also an older clone. He has the salt and pepper thing going on and all that. So maybe it is an age thing. I might be onto something here.
Very, very much could be.
Yeah. But we still don't know. We still don't have any more clues. Okay. So as they're leading Gregor out of his cell, he says that the troops are the clones' replacements and he trained them. Which was the first time that I realized that while we've known this for a while, pretty much since the beginning, the Bad Batch doesn't know that. I don't know why that was a surprise to me. I was like, oh yeah, I guess they don't know that, do they?
Yeah, they don't know what's going on anymore. It's interesting to hear them finding out what's going on. It's also interesting that, like, even as clones are being phased out, they're still being used to train the conscripted soldiers, and then they're just going to dispose of them. You know, like it's pretty cold blooded. Like the Empire,
it really is.
Like I'm always surprised at just like how like gangsta the Empire is. Like the Empire will just like stab you in the back. They don't care. They give zero fucks.
And I know that we've talked about this in a previous episode, but I love that while the original trilogy it talked a lot about how brutal the Empire was, but never really showed it. And like more recently, have we gotten some Star Wars media that like shows us really how far they're willing to go to get what they want. Yeah, I love that. I love the moment when Gregor is further explaining in the elevator that, you know, the new troopers aren't as skilled, but, you know, there's an endless supply of them, so that's why the Empire is going that way. And Hunter's like, oh, you know, numbers aren't everything. And then like the doors open and they immediately encounter like another huge squad of troops. I was just like, oh, well, spoke too soon there, Hunter, didn't you? So they go and take a detour. Meanwhile, back in the Marauder, again, another really cute detail. Omega is pacing back and forth, holding Wrecker's little stuffed animal. I'm like, oh yeah, she's still a little baby. She's like really stressed out about her dad. Ow. Sorry.
You all right there?
I'm good. I just bumped my elbow on my desk.
Oh, that's the worst. Oh.
I know.
Did you notice the Republic Commandos? Have you ever played that video game, Star Wars
I don't
Republic
play video
Commandos?
games.
Oh, okay. So there's a Star Wars video game called Republic Commandos, and you saw one of them.
Oh, with the blue visor?
With the blue visor. That's one of the characters from Republic Commandos.
Okay, I was wondering about that because when I went back and I rewatched Gregor's Clone War episode, when he eventually realizes who he is and he dons his old clone armor, he has that armor but with yellow paint and a light up visor. I don't remember what color the visor was like in the eyes, but it did light up. And I was like, oh, that might be like a newer thing. You know, maybe the old clones don't have that. Maybe the new guys do. I don't know. I mean, new at that point. I mean, you know, not new.
Yeah,
now.
I believe that's canon. I think at least I think the Republic Commando was considered canon at the time. I think it's still considered canon.
I guess it is now.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, thank you for that. No, that's what system was that on?
Oh, what system was that on? It's been so long. PlayStation 3? Might have been where I played it. Yeah, maybe like either Xbox or PlayStation 3. I don't know. I've gone through so many game systems over the years.
It's okay. I was again. Yeah. I'm not in that world at all. So I was curious.
Yeah.
So Gregor gets hit in the ensuing firefight. And when they take cover, like in a control command center, he makes the I got blown up and survived. I can survive this joke. And I was like, Gregor's a little tweaked in the head. Gregor, you know, obviously he had like amnesia and stuff before, but like Gregor's a little nuts.
He's a little crazy.
He's got a couple screws loose. He's
like very joyful throughout this escape.
He's very like Diet Wrecker.
Yeah.
So to get out or continue to get out, Tech suggests going through the vents. How original. And to call for Wrecker and Omega to pick them up in the ship. Mm-hmm. And then while they're going through the vents and trying to get out more, Gregor mentions that the reason why he's there in the first place is that he was sent there with other commandos and quickly realized that he wanted out. And I want to come back to that moment in a sec. When we finish going through all the story beats, I want to come back to that count.
Okay.
So we quickly get to the climax of the episode. Omega and Wrecker go to pick them up, and they do manage to grab Gregor and Tech. But they have to come back around for Echo and Hunter because there are, again, these like proto TIE fighters with very similar sounding sound effects, you know, on their tail. There's like 5 or 6 of them. There's quite a few. So they come back around and they grab Echo, but Hunter slips off the gangway and plummets onto the planet below. I am not gonna lie. I watched this episode the second time round today, this afternoon. I cried again. Like, of course I did the first time because I'm a crybaby and that's just what I do. But it like was still like, even though I know it was gonna happen, like it was still like very raw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, oh, go ahead.
That finale, like the last few minutes of the episode are as thrilling as like any of the films. Like it's like a wonderfully choreographed sequence. The stakes are so high. Omega freaking out. You know, so we have to go back, we have to save him, like her freaking out, like and like no, go, that's an order. Seeing all of the troopers closing in on him. It's so thrilling. Like it's so good.
I'm like getting emotional just like you talking about it. Like, and it only works because of all the stuff that we were talking about earlier in the stream. All these relationships that have been so carefully crafted and built upon for the last 14 episodes.
Yeah.
It wouldn't mean as much as it does if we didn't know that Omega and Hunter specifically have this relationship. And to a lesser degree, another one that really hit me was Tech, because Tech is the one that's in communication with Hunter as Hunter tells them to go. And Tech's first thought is it was something like your chances of survival are not good, or whatever it is that he says. I didn't write that one down.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's his way of telling him, like, we care about you. Like, in his own techie way. You know, if he was the sociopath that we initially pinned him out to be, he'd be like, okay, peace, bye, we're going to go and we're going to save ourselves. But that's not what he does.
Right. And because he processes those things differently when he's being told leave and he's saying, but your chances of survival are not good, you know, if he said like, no, come try and save me, he would. Like, you could tell he would. He like kind of wants to, and that's what he's saying. But
yeah,
you're probably not going to live if we leave like you're telling me to. Like, give me a reason to go back. You know, like that's it. Like that's like an intense moment for Tech, or or Tick. You know,
Tick.
Tick. That's an intense moment. Like all of them, like seeing all of their reactions is absolutely wonderful. Also, the Gronk droid got to shine a little bit in this.
Got his hero moment.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Various members of CF99 have also said, leave me behind before, and they never have. They've always gone back until now. Yeah.
Kevin!
Yeah. No, absolutely. Right. And that's like to show just how high the stakes are, right, in that moment. And make a decision, because like usually the person saying no, we're going back is in fact Hunter.
Yes.
Right. And
because he cares about keeping his people together.
Right. No man's left behind unless it's me. Like, I'm not going to let you y'all sacrifice yourselves for me. Leave. Right. That is a direct order from your superior. Go.
Wait.
And it's a beautiful sequence.
And it's a callback to what he says earlier to Wrecker and Omega to go back to the ship. Mm-hmm. I just realized that.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying coming here was a discussion. This isn't. And that same thing with like, leave without me. That's an order.
Yeah.
What? I can't with this episode. I really cannot, honestly. Holy crap. Okay, we're almost there. We gotta get to the end or else I'm gonna lose it. So I thought the episode was over at that point. But there were 2 more scenes to go before we got to the end. The first one being back to Kamino, where Rampart has caught wind of the Kaminoans' plan to hightail it out of there and has captured Nala Se before she makes it off of Kamino. And he kind of brings her to Lama Su almost like on a taunting way, like, I know what you're up to, and you're not going to cross me. You're not going to pull this one over me kind of way. Mm-hmm. But he specifically turns to Nala Se and says that, a scientist like her would be such a great asset to the Empire. And I'm like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, we know that we know at least in Legends, there's cloning capabilities within the Empire. There's that whole like Emperor's clone thing that went on there, but like not in anything that's currently canon, unless we're going way far into the. Unless we're going way far in the future when we're talking about Strandcast. Right. That was my first thought. And I was like, they're not laying that down from now, are they? That's like 40 years down the road, man.
Well, yeah. I mean that, and then plus like the Emperor's like, his vague somehow coming back thing, like, they could be backfilling that. There's like a lot of stuff that could be connecting to. That doesn't surprise me at all. And I love that he's like, we have use for a scientist, we do not have use for a politician, right? Like, that is interesting. Yes, Eric, agreed, right? So Rise of Skywalker pretty much confirmed the Emperor's clone.
Yeah.
It's super muddy on like the how. It's like, let's just explain it in the opening crawl. I don't know.
Well, that's what kind of bothers me is that, okay, yes, obviously we all know it was handled quite poorly in Rise of Skywalker. Do not even try to at me on that. But subsequent Star Wars media has tried to fill in the holes, but nobody's done it explicitly. We kind of got those test tubey things in The Mandalorian when they infiltrated that base in season 2. We kind of got it in that previous episode with the bounty hunters when they were chasing after Omega, and she was like again all those kind of test tubey type, in that room there. And then now we kind of get it again. It's like, can someone please just have the balls to go and say, like, this is what happens and this is what it is? I'm just tired of the old song and dance. Like, give me something to go off here. I've been waiting years for this conclusion. Thank you.
That's like Filoni's specialty, right? Like, there's a lot left on the floor in the prequel era that, like, you know, in the movies, and then Filoni's like, let me come in and fill in the gaps so the prequel era makes sense and is actually amazing, right?
To his esteemed credit,
you know, yeah.
But this is something that has been like teased. When did Rise of Skywalker come out? Since like what, 2018, 19? Yeah, whatever. It was like in December, so it was like on the teetering one or the other. But anyhow, yeah, that kind of bothers me a little bit. I'm like, just give us a nugget, just give us something.
Mm-hmm.
But do we think that the stormtroopers killed Lama Su when that door closed?
Yeah, I think Lama Su is gone or about to be gone. Like,
I'm like 70-30 on that. I'm like 70-30 on that because he could have some intel that they could use, especially if they're like, hey, these guys could use these, you know, this cloning technology against us. You know, Lama Su's got to have some secrets.
Maybe, yeah, maybe, but like,
as a political
do those secrets even matter anymore with the New World Order?
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
You know, like, so, like, yeah, I don't know. I think that we might be nearing the end, right? Because, like, none of these characters are around in the you know, in the original trilogy in the OT. Totally. So they have to either go off somewhere or die, right? Like,
yeah, no, you're right.
And this is probably one where the character is going to die. Either it has just died or will die soon. Yeah. Whereas Nala Se, I think, is a much more interesting thing. You know, what, you know, is this the link to the scientist in The Mandalorian?
Yeah.
For example, that was wearing Kaminoan, you know, science uniform stuff, you know, like,
maybe, although Mandalorian happens after the OT. So it's quite a bit into the future at this point.
Right, but that could be the connective tissue, right?
Totally.
Like, he's working under a program that Nala Se set up for the Empire, right? Like, could be. You know, could even still be around. For all we know, you know, she could be responsible for, like, the reason that the Emperor had clones to force jump into. She could be the reason for strand casts. You know, all that stuff, like, could be the direct result of Nala Se. Nala Se could be the most important character in all of this.
I mean, if that's the case, and this is the thread that connects Bad Batch to Clone Wars to Mandalorian to Rise of Skywalker, that's some fucking 4D chess Filoni is playing, and I would have to give him his props for that one, if that is indeed the case, which it very well could be.
Mm-hmm.
That would be some intense plotting on his part, and some intense soft retconning.
Yeah.
But then we finally get to the final and most insane scene of the whole episode, if you ask me. Hunter is in his cell. All of a sudden, the door opens, and there's Crosshair. And he kind of gave us this, I was hoping for the whole squad, but you'll do. Which I was like, and of course I'm like, don't you cut it out on us? Don't you make the screen go dark? And of course the screen goes dark. I'm like, God damn it! I'm so mad. And that was when I left you that voice note that I was like, what am I gonna do until Friday? I can't do it. I'm like getting red right now. Oh my goodness. I saw on Twitter after I finally watched the episode and I could see spoilers. Somebody put that shot of Crosshair next to the shot of Darth Maul when he's like, I was hoping for Kenobi. Why are you here? And they're like, it's the same energy. I was like, oh, that's right. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. What is he gonna do? Were those kind of sympathetic looks that we possibly perceived in the Ryloth arc? Is he gonna help Hunter get out? Oh no.
I don't think so. I think more than likely he does miss them, but his idea is to, like, let's crank their inhibitor chips up if possible. I don't know if he knows that they no longer have theirs, but, like,
yeah, I don't know either.
You know, I think he wants them back in the fold. Like, I think he wants them to do like the old days where they're, fighting for the empire. Like, like that's what he wants. Like,
Yeah, although
yeah.
I think for me, there were just too many little moments where he kind of seemed a little conflicted. There were too many. It was too. Let me put it this way: it was too many and too deliberate to be a coincidence. There is something going on there.
There might be foreshadowing to that, but like it might like subvert expectation. Like I think it might be somewhere maybe in the middle, like maybe he's like trying to like figure out how to get them to like fall in line with the empire, and Hunter realizes, oh, like he doesn't want to kill us, he just wants us back, right? Like
Right. Oh
maybe
yeah. No.
there's some of him in here somewhere, so maybe like we get some sort of conflict there. Yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah, I'm not saying that he's gonna like immediately like fall into his arms and kiss and make up. Like that's not where I think this is going. But I think it's gonna be a little bit of a, you were one of us. What happened? Come back to us. We could really use you. All that kind of thing. I don't know. I'm not convinced that Crosshair is there to wipe him out just yet.
Mm.
So going back to Gregor's comment that he was sent to the base with the other commandos and quickly realized he wanted out, combined with Hunter's self-sacrifice and telling his folks to leave him behind so they wouldn't get hurt, it really mirrors Gregor's arc in Clone Wars, because he is stuck in a situation that he doesn't necessarily want to be in, and he fights for his freedom just the same as he does in this episode. And in the end of his season 5 episode, he again sacrifices himself and gets blown up, although he survives. We don't know that time, but gets blown up. So the astromech units and the amphibious lieutenant or whatever can escape off the planet. And it was when I was watching the episode after the Bad Batch to kind of brush up on Gregor, and I was like, oh my God, it's the same story, just kind of mirroring each other.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really neat. I don't know if that was done on purpose or not, but I really appreciated that.
Well, once again, it's a testament to how vast the world is, that like we can see these mirrored moments, years later, like these callbacks, these evocative moments to other choices that were made years prior. Like it's just really cool how immersive the world has become, like since the prequel trilogy to now, especially once Filoni took over, to see that kind of level of detail and interconnectivity we had from the expanded universe now in the canon.
Totally.
He brought that EU sensibility that everyone has a story into the actual canon, and so like that's super exciting. And so like going into like the end of the season, like I have no idea what's going to happen, but like I am like super excited for it.
Yeah, I am. As much, it's almost like a complete 180. As much as we were kind of let down by episode 13 and how filler it was and not really necessary, I have complete turnaround. I am on the edge of my seat for the final 2 episodes. I mean, there's some more meat on this bone with 2 episodes left instead of just 1, and I cannot wait to see where we go here. Mm-hmm. Some stuff is still good. We're not there yet. There is some stuff that's still going to go down.
Yeah, we still got about 5.5 minutes. You want to wildly speculate what we're expecting in the last 2 episodes?
Boy, I mean, when a couple episodes you asked me like what are my 3 like wish list items. I think it was during the Ryloth arc we asked that, and my first thing was like, oh, I want Crosshair to like have his redemption arc, and it looks like that again. We just went over it. It might be possible. That was one of my things on my list. Now it's so funny to like look back episode to episode and see where we were in the storyline, and to see the kinds of predictions we made back then and how wildly off base some of those seem now. Like before we were like, oh, we're gonna see Boba Fett for sure, because we were talking about how like the whole like, oh, Omega is like a perfect clone, all this stuff. That stuff is so far from my mind right now.
Yeah.
It feels like that's a whole nother show we were talking about. Yeah. I don't know where that went. And frankly, I don't care right now.
Especially because of this episode. This episode, I think, readjusted the expectations
completely.
In a very effective way, in a very good way, and it was needed because I think that the middle of this series was a little all over the place.
Totally.
Culminating in last week's, episode 13, Infested.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't really see what they're doing, and like now I'm like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. I'm actually really excited about it. I'm really
for sure. Yeah, we can kind of see the skeleton of what's going to happen in the next 2 episodes. I think.
Yeah.
I still think we might, fringe theory, maybe get a quick Darth Vader cameo, because if they make enough noise that we can't avoid him any longer, like they become enough of a problem, he's got to step in, it could still be a thing.
If we get Vader, my guess, actually my hope, is that it's like after everything's over, set up for next season. Like like Vader, or if we get Boba. Yeah, like I don't want them to introduce any other new people at this point.
Yep.
I want them to, like, because this is a problem I've had with, like, I've bitched about this in my in our Marvel recaps, Disney Plus recaps, that last episode they throw in a new element and they have to spend the entire last episode like explaining that element. The worst offender of this is Loki, right? Where instead of wrapping up the storyline, here's a new character and we're going to give you 40 minutes of exposition from this character. They're just going to monologue.
1000%.
Similar with the end of WandaVision, when like Agatha pops in and like, it's Agatha all along. It wasn't Agatha all along anyway, but then she's, then we spend an entire episode like dealing with other things instead of wrapping up character arcs on the show. With this show, I'm really praying, don't introduce anybody else. Have the last 2 episodes be the Bad Batch. We need to save Hunter. It's the Batch versus Crosshair and his forces. Like, in that arc, let's see what the denouement is for Crosshairs. Do they save him? Do they get close to saving him and he chooses the wrong path again to continue on? Like, give me that.
Yeah.
And then whatever new person you want to set up after the arcs are done for this season,
right? Then
just give us a little tease, like, sir, things did not go according to plan. And he turns around, he's like, all myself, like, give me that.
Yeah. And I think Filoni is a smart enough storyteller. I don't think he's going to introduce any more characters at this point. There's enough there that you really don't need to.
Yeah.
And we are in a runaway train barreling toward the season finale in 2 weeks. Yeah. At least, by now it's only like 10 days, 12 days, something like that.
Yeah, we have the next one coming up in 2 days, Friday, and then the week after that's our finale. So yeah, we have like about a week and a half left. That's exciting. Are you frozen or am I frozen?
Mm-hmm. You short out for a second for me, but it was really quick. So we're back.
Yeah, and same you for me. The Pikes showing up and Infested could signal Maul. 100% that could signal Maul.
I said that. Yep.
Yeah, we said that last episode.
Sure did. Yeah. I think that's more of a stretch because we are moving further and further away from prequel trilogy material into original trilogy material. But I mean, on the other hand, maybe it's Filoni's way of like being like, no, they are interconnected. They are one. Maul is still alive. We know that for sure because he appears in Rebels. He's not alive for much longer, but he's still alive.
Like I said, I personally don't want to see him because like I feel like his story is over. So like even retroactively, I don't want to see more fill-in on his story. I've seen the end of his story. I love the end of his story. I don't want to see anything else.
Yeah, I mean, Maul is dangerous. As much as I love him, Maul is dangerously close to being overused.
Yeah.
Aw, thanks,
Thank you,
Kevin. Love you
Kevin.
too.
Sorry, missed last week.
It's okay. You can go back and rewatch it. We'll forgive you.
And then Mike said, "Well, Omega's secret be revealed this season." I thought no after last week, but now dot dot dot. And I'm wondering if we're
I don't know about
projecting
that.
Omega's secret. Like I'm wondering if we're projecting like more importance on Omega than there actually is. Like
Maybe.
I
But
don't
then
know,
why would they
maybe it's
introduce
not
it then
as
if we're not supposed to care?
I don't know.
They made a
I
big
like,
deal about it.
it felt like they did, but maybe the big deal was that she's the key to them continuing the clone program. Like maybe we already learned the big secret is that she's
I don't know.
the only other perfect copy of Django, which I still don't understand how that works.
If that's true,
different.
Yeah, if that's true, it was really clumsily done. I feel like they're smart enough with the lore and with the world and with what people want to see that I don't think that's necessarily the case. I agree with my dad. I don't know if it's Mike. I don't know if it's this season or next season. I think we'll get it at some point. I think there's too much going on right now for us to get it now, whether it's the next episode or the final. But I really do hope we get it in the future because right now I'm not satisfied.
Unless my writer's brain is spinning here.
No, go for it.
So I know we're a little over on time, but let me throw one more possible theory out based on what Mike is hoping. So the hanging Chad on Camino is Nala Se.
Yeah.
They've captured Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
One would think, for economy of story, that they would take Hunter to Camino. I don't know for a fact that he's on Camino already, but but if they're going to transport him somewhere, they probably take him back to Camino, him being a clone and whatnot. That being the base where it seems that Hunter Crosshairs is operating from Camino. He goes out on missions, comes back to Camino. If that's the case, then perhaps we will see some sort of dovetail of when the batch is trying to save Hunter, that they find out that Nala Se is in captivity, and Omega's like, Nala Se is the only person who was ever kind to me here, or something like that. Like, we need to save her. She's not like the rest of them, I promise. And then maybe we do find out something extra about Omega through Nala Se. Like, it's more than just you being a perfect clone. You are the first strand cast or something like that,
or right? Whatever it is, yeah.
Or whatever said secret is. Perhaps there is a way to dovetail those two things organically because now everyone's in the same place.
That works almost too well. Yeah, it's a definite possibility. I never really thought about it. Of course, I was so distraught both times I saw this episode. I wasn't thinking about where are they taking Hunter. I'm just like, oh, they got him. That's bad. I want that to stop. I want them to not have Hunter.
Mike gave us a heart emoji, so I think Mike likes that as a possible outcome.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that as a possible outcome too.
Yeah.
All right.
If you were to do that, that would be the way to do that.
So. That is definitely one way and one very possible way. I mean, I don't really see much flaw in that. The only thing that I'm wondering is why Camino? Camino seems to have outgrown its purpose at this point. So I'm not entirely convinced that that's where they're going. I think maybe maybe a skeleton of a Death Star, like the proto Death Star.
I agree that it's outlasted its significance, which is why then the other thing you do for the action beat, but also to show just how much it's it's done, is the destruction of the cloning facility.
Oh man, that'd be such a bummer.
Right. So they're learning these secrets from Nala Se as the place is blowing up left and right.
Yeah.
They're like, we have to go. And she's like, no, you don't understand. There's more you need to know about Omega.
Yeah.
And then Hunter gets told the secret. None of the rest of the batch knows. Hunter probably keeps it a secret. As they're running out, Nala Se gets left behind. Just know, I need to, the knowledge of this facility needs to die with me. Right. Yeah. The cloning knowledge needs to die with me, because otherwise the Empire can use it for, you have no idea what the Emperor has planned. They're trying to get me to do. let me die, something like that, right? Like now you can have all these huge stakes coming out of it that like are foreshadowing things for like the sequel trilogy, foreshadowing for all the things 40 years out. Like you're getting the very first threads of that. You're getting the secret of Omega. Maybe like Omega has like the knowledge of how to do these cloning things. So like she's the last surviving piece of this technology. Something there's like a lot of ways you can go that really ratchet up the tension.
You know what you should do? You should write these down and see how many, like almost like a bingo card, like how many of these come true in the next 2 episodes. Seriously, make a bingo card. I want to know.
Okay.
Maui prediction bingo.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Do it just for me.
All right. I got you.
All right. What is your star rating out of 5 for episode 14, War-Mantle?
So this is probably my second favorite episode.
Wow.
The only thing that I think I like more than this is the pilot episode.
The pilot was so good.
But this is like on par with that quality, I felt. So I'm going to give this I'm gonna give it a 4.8.
You're a tough nut to crack.
I'm going 4 point. I'm not getting a perfect 5.
Oh man.
It's not perfect. There are things that haven't paid off yet. I need to see how retroactively it could become a 5. But right now, because it is on a cliffhanger, there's more to be seen. I'm gonna give it a 4.8. That's pretty damn close to perfect.
Yeah, it is. So I know so I think my 5s to this point were the pilot. I gave the pilot a 5 because it was awesome. And I also gave the inhibitor chip episode a 5.
Yeah.
Just because it was a lot of emotional beats there. And I think this episode might be on par. So the only reason why I would clock this episode for any amount of points or fractions of points is because I'm gonna really need some answers. I'm gonna really need them quick, and we didn't get a lot of them this go around. I just saw the comment. That's so great. Oh, that's a good point.
That's a good point.
That's another good point, or whatever he says. But it was really that good. I'm really struggling with this because, again, I did give that Wrecker episode a 5, but we weren't as far along in the action as we are now. So I think I'm going to need more going forward, even though I felt like the quality was on par with those two.
Oh. You froze.
You were like, man, what the heck is going on today? We haven't had this problem
froze
before.
In like this amazing Popeye face too. At least on my screen. No. I don't know if it was like that.
Oh no, I'll have to go back in the replay and see what that looked, how unfortunate that looked. I loved it as much as those other two, but I'm gonna need more plot wise, so I think I'm gonna give it a 4.9. Just because I'm gonna need a little bit more going forward here, Mr. Filoni. I'm gonna need more meat on that bone.
All right. So are we gonna do the next one Friday?
I don't think I can on the day. Let me see about the Saturday though. We could like late night Bad Batch after dark.
A late night Bad Batch.
Maybe I am free all day Saturday, so I can do at any point on Saturday.
Any point on Saturday, or maybe like Bad Batch after dark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Either one could be fun.
We'll work on that. We got to work on trying to get a more regular time for.
I know.
we will work on that. We're both very busy, y'all, so we do our best to get these out as soon as possible. But yeah, that was wonderful. I can't wait for next week or for a couple days from now. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Ooh!
Absolutely.
Goodness gracious.
All right, y'all. We're gonna end our broadcast now.
Yeah, let's do this. Thanks for watching.